Reports have been circulating that Draymond Green took issue with Anthony Edwards following a moment that many fans interpreted as blatant disrespect towards Steph Curry. The incident occurred during a game when Edwards knocked down a three-pointer and then stared directly at Curry, who was seated on the Warriors bench. The clip spread rapidly across the internet, triggering a massive reaction. Given Draymond Green's long-standing reputation for fiercely defending Steph Curry at all costs, it did not take long for the situation to escalate. What initially appeared to be a tense in-game moment quickly evolved into a much larger narrative. With that in mind, let's break down exactly what happened between Anthony Edwards and Steph Curry, and how Draymond Green ultimately found himself at the center of it all. On March 13, 2026, the Minnesota Timberwolves secured a 127-117 victory over the Golden State Warriors at Chase Center in San Francisco. The visiting Timberwolves dictated the tempo for most of the contest and maintained control throughout. Golden State's starting lineup included Brandon Podskay, DeAnthony Melton, Guy Santos, Draymond Green, and Al Horford, while Minnesota opened with Dante DiVincenzo, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, and Rudy Gobert. However, it was a specific sequence during the game that sent the basketball world into a frenzy. After draining a three-pointer, Edwards turned toward the Warriors bench and locked eyes with Steph Curry, who was dressed in street clothes. The moment instantly went viral, and Curry's facial expression became a focal point for fans online, who dissected it endlessly. Context is crucial in understanding the situation. Steph Curry was sidelined due to knee soreness and was set to be reevaluated in 10 days. He had been out since January 30th with a lingering right knee issue, which led to speculation about whether the 37-year-old star should sit out the remainder of the season. As a result, Curry was not in uniform and was simply observing the game from the bench. Edwards, however, chose that exact moment, after hitting a deep shot over the Warriors' defense, to hold a stare in Curry's direction. This was not an isolated incident in Edwards' history with the Warriors. His competitive stance toward the franchise has been evident for years. 2 years earlier, Edwards openly stated that he wanted to face the Warriors whenever possible. When asked why, he bluntly responded that it was because Draymond Green talked so much trash. During the 2023-24 season, after a foul sent Edwards to the free throw line, he dismissed Draymond by saying, "Ain't nobody worried about you, bro, hell no." That game ended with the Timberwolves defeating the Warriors 116-110, effectively humbling Green in the process. The pattern is clear. Edwards has consistently targeted the Warriors, both verbally and through his play. Now, during a game where Curry sat on the bench in street clothes, Edwards once again made a statement. After hitting a three, he stared Curry down, reinforcing his competitive mindset. Statistically, Edwards has backed up his confidence. He currently ranks third in the NBA in scoring, averaging 29.4 points per game. His production has been remarkable, with 27.2 points per game at home and an even more impressive 31.8 on the road. He has scored 30 or more points in 31 of 56 games, including 19 of 27 away contests. That night at Chase Center, Edwards clearly arrived with intent, and the struggling Warriors, already on a 3-game losing streak, had no response. By the end of the third quarter, Golden State managed to trim the deficit slightly, but Minnesota still held a commanding 118-107 lead. The game was effectively decided after halftime, as the Timberwolves controlled it from start to finish. The stare down became the defining highlight, the symbolic cherry on top. Edwards did not simply defeat the Warriors. He emphasized the moment by directing his gaze at the greatest shooter in NBA history sitting on the sidelines. Whenever something like this occurs, there is one individual in the NBA almost guaranteed to react: Draymond Green. To understand why this moment carries weight, it is important to recognize the bond between Green and Curry. The two have experienced everything together. For championships, the rise of a dynasty, the Kevin Durant era, the subsequent decline, injuries, and rebuilding phases. Draymond has always embraced the role of enforcer and protector, the player willing to do the gritty work so Curry can shine. He has never been shy about acknowledging that role. On his podcast, Green once declared, "Steph Curry is the man. There's not a person in this world that feels more strongly about that than I do. But Michael Jordan had Scottie Pippen. MJ had Dennis Rodman. I would never be a Steve Jobs. That's Steph Curry. But I can say this with pride. None of it gets built without me. That statement perfectly encapsulates who Draymond is. He understands his place and takes pride in it, and part of that identity involves ensuring that no one disrespects Curry without consequences. Present, the Warriors find themselves in a difficult position. Without Curry, the team has struggled, falling to 31-30 and barely holding on to the 8th seed in the Western Conference. Jimmy Butler III is also out for the season with a torn ACL, leaving the roster depleted. At 35 years old, Draymond is being asked to shoulder a heavier burden than expected. The team's inconsistency has been evident, with losses to teams like the Utah Jazz and Chicago Bulls, both of whom are not contending seriously. One particularly painful loss came against the Bulls, where Golden State fell 130-124 in overtime. Draymond was heavily criticized for committing a late foul on Jalen Smith with just 1.4 seconds remaining in regulation while the Warriors were leading. Smith converted both free throws, forcing overtime, where Chicago ultimately won. As a result, Green has been under intense scrutiny. Bleacher Report even ranked him as the most overrated player in the NBA. This is the environment Draymond is navigating: criticism, losses, and a sidelined Curry. Then, Anthony Edwards walks into Chase Center and stares Curry down after a three-pointer. Naturally, the situation becomes about more than basketball. It touches on respect, hierarchy, and the ongoing transition from one generation to the next. Despite how the moment appeared, the relationship between Edwards and Curry is not purely antagonistic. In fact, it is layered with mutual respect. During the 2024 Paris Olympics, the two were teammates on Team USA. They practiced, competed, and spent significant time together, reportedly getting along well. Coach Steve Kerr noted that Edwards thrived in competitive environments, frequently engaging in shooting contests with stars like Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Curry himself. Kerr described Edwards' trash talk not as disrespect, but as a natural expression of his competitive spirit. There was also a notable moment earlier in the season when Curry wore Anthony Edwards' signature shoes during a game against Minnesota. Edwards, who was sidelined with a foot injury at the time, expressed genuine excitement about seeing Curry wear them. He explained that he had been wearing Curry's shoes since 8th grade and even attended Curry's camp. Seeing his idol now wearing his own sneakers felt surreal. Edwards even joked, "He don't know it, but he's really me. His alter ego is me," blending admiration with his usual confidence. When Curry was selected as an all-star starter over Edwards in 2026, Edwards showed no frustration. Instead, he acknowledged Curry as the greatest point guard of all time and dismissed any controversy. Statistically, their performances were nearly identical leading into the break, yet Edwards had no issue with the decision. This duality defines Edwards. He can respect and admire Curry while simultaneously challenging him. He openly stated that he aims to one day surpass Curry's three-point record, noting that he is already ahead of Curry's early career pace. However, he also acknowledged the uniqueness of Curry's greatness, admitting that no one truly approaches the game the same way Curry does. All of this makes the stare-down more complex. It is not rooted in hatred or disrespect alone. It is part of Edwards' competitive identity. Still, given Draymond Green's personality, it is unlikely to go unaddressed. Green has consistently shown that he responds to narratives, whether through his podcast or public comments. While he has previously expressed respect for Edwards' confidence and trash talk, there is a difference between competitive words and staring down an injured teammate on the bench. Draymond will likely address the incident, probably on his podcast, balancing acknowledgement of Edwards' talent with a firm stance on defending Curry. That is his pattern, measured yet protective. Meanwhile, the moment itself symbolizes a broader shift in the NBA. Veterans like LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant are nearing the ends of their careers, while younger stars like Edwards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Victor Wembanyama are aggressively stepping into the spotlight. The Warriors, as a franchise, are approaching a crossroads. With key players aging and contracts nearing expiration, a rebuild may be inevitable in the coming years. Trade rumors involving Draymond and others only reinforce that reality. Yet, despite all of this, Draymond continues to fight for his team, for the legacy, and for Steph Curry. Ultimately, the stare-down represents more than a single moment. It captures the tension between generations, the balance between respect and ambition, and the shifting power dynamics of the league. Draymond Green stands at the center of it, as he often does, ready to defend Curry and the Warriors' legacy. And while Anthony Edwards may be aiming to claim the throne, Draymond is not going to let that happen quietly.